Okay. Good morning, guys. Almost said welcome to Staying Connected. I'm so used to doing that. Um, Welcome to Intro to Photography, session 4. I hope that you're well. Let me know how you're getting on. Let me know how you're doing today, guys. Checking in. And yeah, I think that we'll give it just a couple of minutes for a few people to get in, because I know that once people see the notification, they'll start to come into they'll start to come and watch the stream. So we'll just give it like 1 or 2 minutes. But yeah, we've got some cool stuff lined up. This is session 4. It is technically session 4 because we did the taster. But in terms of the actual course, I mean, this is just useless information for you guys. But in terms of the actual course, it's session 3. So we will still have another 2 sessions at least after this one. So we've got this session, then I'm going to mention it in a bit more detail later, but then we've got the next session as well, where we'll hopefully be going out and shooting. I'll mention that when a few more people come in. And then after that, we've got one more virtual session, and then I think that might be about it, but we'll see, guys. So we've still got 3, like including today's session, we've still got 3 solid sessions. So yeah, plenty of time. And it's been fun. I've really enjoyed it so far. And it was nice to get out the other day and do a bit of shooting together. That was really cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so how is everybody doing this morning? How are you doing, Linda? Good morning. How are you doing, Charlotte? Good morning. You guys doing okay? Just gonna put my phone on silent for now. So, yeah, give me 1 second. My apologies. It's definitely a good idea. You don't want people ringing you during the stream. Okie dokie, cracking. Right, let's see how we're doing. I'll give it just another 1 or 2 minutes, guys, and then we'll start the session. Just want to give people plenty of time to make sure they can get in. As I was saying, because I know people see the notification and they're like, oh, you know, the live, so that's it. Hey, Andy, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you too, man. So yeah, pretty much, obviously, it'll be I know, living the sunshine. It's coming through my window on the left hand side, so I'm pretty happy about that myself. But yeah, guys, so it's the same as the other virtual sessions that we've done so far. We're going to start with presentation, and we're going to learn some new content. We're going to go through that together. It's going to have a mini quiz in it, so make sure that you're paying attention, make sure you've been listening. That's one of the reasons, obviously, that I didn't want to start straight away, just because I want to make sure, everyone's got an equal chance at the quiz. And then, so that'll be the first half of the session. It's going to be the presentation and the quiz, and then we'll talk a little bit about next week as well. Then the second half of the session, which will be from 1 to 3, we're going to look at everyone's photos, and that'll be like the first half of the second session, if that makes sense. No, yeah, you know what I mean. So it gets so convoluted. So that'll be like the first part of the second session, and then we'll look at some photo editing again. I do have some resources in the description of the video, which you guys can use if you want to try yourself on that. We're just going to do some basic photo retouching. We're going to brush up on some of the stuff that we did in the taster in terms of photo editing, in case you might have missed that, because I know that we didn't get everybody in the taster. So yeah, we may also, no worries, Lynn. It's we just generated the link for it today. Usually we've got them all generated in advance, but I think we've just been so swept up with stuff this week that we hadn't have a chance to generate them ahead of schedule. But yeah, they're still going out at the same time, so that goes for everything. We will try and schedule the links further in advance, but either way, they'll all still be on. We don't have any kind of sessions that aren't running that would have been otherwise, at least to my knowledge. And yeah, awesome. Hello, Lee. So I think we're pretty much got a full team, just about. So I'll get started then, guys, in a sec. But yeah, so for Lynn and Lee and whoever else is joining us who wasn't there, we did the session shooting out and about last week, and it was absolutely cracking. We had a great time. I know that obviously Lynn, you couldn't make it because of your course, and obviously Lee, I know you messaged me as well, and you couldn't make it at the time, but it was good fun, and you know, we got some really cool shots. We got to use some of our cameras, and yeah, we kind of went around just bits of Sunderland. Really, we went around kind of some of the more scenic parts of Sunderland, and we got some really cool stuff. So more on that later. We're going to be looking at those pictures in the second half of the session. So yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. Right, okay, I'm going to stop waffling on then, guys, because I think that we've got pretty much everybody here, and we'll get cracking then. As always, guys, like I said, there's going to be a quiz, but if you do have any questions as I'm going along and just racking stuff off, feel free to ask. It's cliche, but there's no such question as a silly question, and that does sound cliche, but it is actually true. So you know, I have to say it. Anyway, so guys, this is Intro to Photography Session 4, and today we are going to be doing a little bit about camera kit, actually. So should be good fun. So let's have a little look, guys. Okay, yeah. So camera kit and equipment is a huge part of photography. And it can include everything and anything from your lenses to your lighting using. So yeah, so basically your camera kit, when you first get started, you should even then have like a basic kit, right? Like if you've just got a camera, like a digital camera or anything like that, then you've probably got a strap for it. You've probably got a bag for it. I mean, that is still kind of quit. I got kit and equipment mixed into one word there. That's still kind of camera kit. And then everything beyond that is just stuff that you're going to be adding on, and you're just going to work your way up to have like a nice little collection of stuff that's ultimately going to make you more and more of a professional photographer. Don't worry if you don't have like a big kit at the moment. That's totally fine and to be expected, but I just thought that I would kind of make this presentation just to let you guys be aware of what the opportunities are out there and what kind of things there is in terms of progression. And also there's some good stuff here which you could do is like an investment, like into your kit. Like there's some stuff that you could probably buy tomorrow and be useful for you, even if you've just got a smartphone. I know I've got some people who are sticking with the smartphone photography. I am a big kind of like fan of that whole idea. Like I think that there's a lot of people in photography circles who say like, oh, you know, smartphone's not real photography, but I'm totally not like that at all, because I think that the cameras you can get on them are really good now. So I definitely don't think that. So if you are using your phone, that's totally fine. You can get some great photos on that stuff. Probably better than some other people's cameras, because you got to think some people will be using cameras that are really quite old, and the technology is advancing all the time. So your smartphone, if you've got an old-ish camera, like obviously there's some cameras from the 30s which are absolutely fantastic. So it's not just because it's old, but if you've got like a cheaper older camera, like a cheaper older digital camera particularly, maybe your phone would even be better in some cases. Not always obviously, but just like occasionally that might be the case. So yeah, just something to kind of think about. And if you did want to find that out, if you were thinking, you know, is my phone better than my actual camera that I'm using, what I would do is I would just check out the specs. So I would just Google your phone, camera specs, and then it'll give you a list of everything. And then I would Google your camera specs. So you type your camera in and then look at the specs and then compare them, and then you get a big chance to kind of have a look, and that's it. As a big ask, we allow the camera home to sit and explore. I think I'd learn it better. I tell you what, I'll ask about that, Amelia. That's a good question, actually. Maybe I don't actually know at the moment, because that's like a question I'd have to ask Dan about, because he's like the big boss man, obviously. But I'll tell you what, I'll ask for you. So potentially, yeah, I could. I mean, yeah, I'll ask, and we'll see. Yeah. If we're not using it, I'd imagine, but it just depends whether it's like there's plans to use it in another session or something. I honestly don't know, but I will certainly ask for you. And right, yeah, so guys, you're using two different, so this is just a couple of pointers about kit. Yeah, using two different lenses can give you two completely different shots and can really bring your photography to the next level. So yeah, guys, obviously when you might be using a smartphone or certain digital cameras, it'll have something called an optical zoom, which is where it's digitally zooming. Like, it's not actually changing the magnification of the lens, it's just zooming it in. It might actually, well, it might slightly, sometimes it extends the lens in those digital cameras. However, if you actually switched your lens to like a different piece of glass which has a higher magnification, then that is actually going to give you a massively different shot. And you start to realize, like, I've got there's like a diagram I can show you where it's like it kind of has side by side each different lens, and like they took the same shot on like several different lenses, and it's like completely different picture each time. So I'll try and dig that out for you guys as well. Right, however, although kit is important, you must firstly learn how to use your camera and be able to take a good picture. So guys, yeah, obviously I know that a lot of us are still at the beginner to intermediate stage, so it's like, listen, don't worry about it. Like, if you're like don't get ahead of yourself as well, right? I remember one of the biggest kind of mistakes that I made early on in my like videography kind of career, if you will, I guess. Then like I bought like a zoom lens because I wanted to buy like lenses for my camera, and I bought like a 75 to 200mm zoom lens. I was shooting like a lot of short films at the time, and I never used it. So just think, like, it was because of my inexperience that I bought it. I remember I did ask my teachers at the time, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that'd be a good idea," but no, I would never. Like, so we're gonna look at lenses in a bit, but that was a mistake on my behalf, and I just didn't need it at that time. I think I used it like a couple of times, and it was like not the best. So yeah, I would definitely just make sure you take it one step at a time, basically, because getting used to your camera first is the most important thing before you start to buy all kinds of different kit and stuff. Right, so yeah, that's it. Getting the basics down. We've spent a bit of time on that in the last couple sessions. We'll probably review it maybe in the next session, but that's just worth pointing out as well. So now I'm going to hit you guys with a little bit of jargon, if you don't mind. We're going to look at some of the cameras that we have, and we'll just talk about those just a tiny bit. So let's see. Alright guys, so yeah, all looks like a bit of gobbledygook, but don't worry, we'll break it down. So this is the camera that we were using. You might recognize this if you were on the shoot last week, and this is just the camera that we used. So yeah, Lynn. So zoom lenses are good if you've got a purpose to use them. My point, I've got nothing against zoom lenses at all. Zoom lenses can be absolutely fantastic. My point more so was just make sure that you kind of know, or you're aware of what you're going to be using it for. If you buy a lens, make sure that you're kind of certain that you're going to get the use out of it and it is worth the investment. Me getting that lens was more out of an experience of not knowing what to get. But yeah, zoom lenses can be great, depending on the context, you know. So there you go, guys. So yes, this is the longest name in the world for a camera, and it's the Panasonic Lumix DMC 2Z270 TZ, sorry, EB-K 30x70 super zoom camera. And this has got like a, you see how we talked about the lens that extends. Obviously you've got in the top of the camera there, you've got the actual zoom button, and that kind of extends and it brings the lens out a little bit more. But yeah, so obviously, as I was saying, if you change the glass, you're going to get a better quality, but the zoom in this is quite good. That's obviously one of the key features that they've went for. And yeah, if we just look down some of the features there. So it's sensor. Yeah, I'm not like, that is a bit jargony, so I wouldn't worry about that too much for now, your sensor, but that's something that might be useful. More so your 12 megapixel and your 30 times optical zoom, and it's a DC Vario Alma 24 to 720 millimeter lens. That seems a bit crazy that it zooms in that much, but actually it's just an optical zoom. It's not like an actual, doesn't actually like change the magnification. It's just kind of optically digitally zooming it. However, that is such a massive range. If you're looking at any cameras, generally you would get like 70 to 200, 18 to 35, 14 to 18 millimeter kind of change. You would rarely get like 24 to 720 on an actual DSLR. That's like pretty crazy, but that is the lens specs. I understand, guys, if this is a bit of feels like a bit of jargon at the moment, don't worry about it, because we're going to break it down in the simplest terms. And you know, you don't need to fully understand some of the things on this at the moment, just because it's just kind of just to give you an idea really of what kind of stuff that we're offering. So yeah, as I mentioned before, guys, we've got 3 of these in the office. So this is for you guys to use basically. And Amelia, Andy, Linda, they all had a go. I think Charlotte had a little go on one as well, I'm not sure, when we went out the other day. And yeah, you guys can like attest for what you thought about it. But yeah, some of the this bit here, the third one down, I think that is my highlight. Creative control with control ring, which is, I think that would be that ring there, your focus ring. And raw shooting, so you can shoot in RAW. So only like quite good quality cameras can process raw footage. It's like that's like our raw kind of shots, because that's like such a high quality. So that means you can get some really good quality shots. But generally speaking, guys, I would usually have your pictures at JPEG instead of RAW. So if you've got your camera settings and you kind of, if you're uploading your pictures all in RAW, it's probably not worth it. Like if you were paid to go and shoot something for a newspaper, or if you had like a client who was paying you something, then maybe do it in RAW. But if you're just shooting, like if you're going out and shooting for our sessions, then I would just shoot in JPEG, because RAW is such a big file size and it's not necessary for the stuff that we're going to be getting mainly. But it's good to know that option's there. So yeah, and alright, yeah, everyone gets zoomed in. Exactly, that's a good point, Lynn. And yeah, so focus peaking as well, guys. Manual focus and focus peaking. So yeah, some cameras that you get, the digital cameras, make sure if you are thinking about buying one that you kind of look at the specs. So there are going to be some digital cameras where they're not even going to have manual focus on them. So it's just going to all be autofocus. I would try to stay away from that. It's good to have the option to have autofocus if you know you're filming. For example, if you want to film yourself and you want to put it like on a tripod, then you probably want autofocus, because you can't adjust the actual focus. Instead, you have to go over and do it. Or if you had like a monitor, you could do it, but that's just so convoluted. So in that case, autofocus would be good. But the fact that you don't have the option for manual focus, you're not going to have as much creative control. Focus peaking, right? So these cameras have focus peaking. Focus peaking is amazing. Like if you're ever going to get a camera, I would double check if it had focus peaking on it. I'm not sure if for the people who use these cameras, and anyone that had to play on my camera as well, if you remember, guys, when I was telling you, and just for anyone who isn't watching, I'll make sure, who wasn't with us, I'll make sure to double clarify. Basically, like when you turn focus peaking on your camera settings, you look in your image, right, should you focus on a certain area, so you adjust your focus ring to focus on a certain area, and that area will start to go green, and it'll start to have like green lines on it, and it might look a little bit ugly at first, and you might think like, oh, I don't really like that. It's an absolute like godsend, because basically that's telling you, that green is telling you that part of the picture is in focus. So literally, like, one of the hardest things about photography throughout the ages is getting it in focus. Like, and it's as simple as that, right? But like, even professional photographers, when they were working with film photography, when you've got a moving subject, or when you're shooting on the run, like there's so many photos that they would take that are just out of focus, because there was just like, they couldn't get it right at that time. And with focus peaking, it just completely eliminates that risk. So it's awesome. Like even like I've got a camera which doesn't have focus peaking on because it's a little bit older, but it's a good camera, and that like I get photos out of focus sometimes, but with the one it work, or this one, it just never happens because you can just get the peaking on, and that's it. And one way that I usually gauge it is sorry, I was just checking up on the chat there, guys. So yeah, one way that I usually gauge it is that I make sure that the eyes are in focus. So I'd make sure that the green shine when you get the focus peaking is on the eyes, and then once you've got that, then that's good enough, because as long as the eyes are in focus, then it's usually okay. That's a little tip for you guys. But yeah, focus peaking, and we can go more on that. And obviously, as I was saying, we're going to go out shooting next week. So if anyone wants me to show them focus peaking, make sure you remember it, and I will do my best to help you out with that, guys. I might actually put that as an extra question in the quiz at the end. If I remember, that's the bonus question. So you might want to bank this now. I'm going to ask you what focus peaking is as a bonus question. so we'll see. Okay. All right, cracking. Right. Yeah, I don't actually know. I don't know. Okay, guys, I want to ask you a question, right? What do you think that the best way for us to do the quiz is, right? And yes, Andy, don't worry about that, mate, as well. That was my fault as well, that. So I'll bring some as well. I'll make sure that they are fully charged. And shooting people, yeah, shooting is just because I'm obviously from the film world, and shooting just means filming generally, or getting a picture. It's not actual shooting. But yeah, it's going to take photographs. So what was I going to say, guys? Sorry. Oh yes. So I want to ask you guys, right? Do you prefer, when we do the quiz, that we go through each question one by one, and then we work out the scores at the end? Because there's two different ways to do it, right? Like, we could do it where we go through each question, nobody answers in the chat, then once we've looked at all the questions, we revisit it, and then we see who can answer them, and then we can tally up the scores and see who got like the best scores or whatever. We could do it that way, or we can just do it together as we go down. Which way do you think's easier, guys? I hope you understand my meaning, because I know that might be a little bit confusing. But yeah, let me know which one you would prefer, because obviously it's quite fun if we get to see the different scores and stuff people had. But you want to do it together, Amelia? That's absolutely fine. Yeah, I'm totally with that. It's just whatever you guys wanted to do, really. I don't personally have a preference. Happy either way. Cool. Yeah, we'll just see. If we've got the opinion sways one way or the other, we'll do it that way. We'll see what. It's not like if someone has a lower score than someone else, it's not a competition at the end of the day. It's just like it's just a bit of fun, isn't it, really? Cool. Well, we'll have a look then, guys, and I'll see what I fancy in the moment. if that's the general consensus. Together. Okay, so I feel like together's kind of. I think more people are wanting together than the other way around. Right? Okay, we'll do it that way. That's the way that we've always been doing it. If you join the other sessions, we've done them together up to now, so we'll do that. Don't like quizzes. Well, that's it. It's a way that I can test your guys' knowledge. It's just I need to keep you on your toes. You know what I mean? Make sure you've been listening. So that's exactly it. Yeah. So yeah. Just looking at some stuff here, talking about film photography. Yeah, and it's something that like both my roommates do a lot of film photography, and it's something that I've been wanting to get into. So we will soon see. It usually means exam in disguise. Yeah, it does a bit, right, doesn't it? It's like a good way to kind of hoodwink people into doing like a mock exam, but that's not what we're doing. It's just a bit of fun. So yeah, okie dokie. And don't be daft, man, Amelia. What are you talking about? You answered loads of really good questions every time we've done it. Don't worry about that, man. I'd always get picked last as well for sports and stuff. Like, like that's a thing. Like, I'm quite fast, but like I've got 2 left feet, so it's like it's just not a good combo, really. So yeah, so I can relate to that as well. Okie dokie, guys, back on track. mini tangent, but it's okay, it's all good, we love it. So enhanced optical image stabilization, basically what that just means is that you're going to have less shake. So image stabilization, this is another one for you to look out for when if you're ever buying a lens. Check that, see if it has image stabilization on it. Going back to that zoom lens thing that we were talking about, there was the same lens, right? Canon did the same lenses. They had two of the same lenses. One of them was about 20 or 30 quid more, it might have been a little bit more than that, and that was just because it had image stabilization on it. So next to where the lens is, it'll say IS, like in the description, and that just means image stabilization. I would definitely, if you're buying lenses, check out what it says for image stabilization, because especially if it's like a zoom lens, because it's already quite zoomed in, so that glass is zoomed in, right? And then you think if it moves, it's like an earthquake on the camera, right? So make sure that you get some, because especially it's okay if you've always got it on a tripod, right? But like if you're going about and getting some pics and you're using your hands, it's already quite a heavy lens. You might want to look for some image stabilization options. This camera has some image stabilization for the optical zoom it has, so that's what kind of helps against that. So it is a decent, it is a decent camera all in all. It's a good, like, brilliant, it's a good starter camera. And this last bit here, it's more for the video aspect of it, which is cool. I mean, that's something that I'm into. And it says that 50p. That's not how much it costs, unfortunately, but that's like the definition. No, that would be. You'd think that would be like frames per second, right? So that's what that might be. So it says ACVHD/MP4. So MP4, it's like the standard file format you'd shoot most video stuff in. And then it says that it has 12 megabytes, and it's just that mentions about the lens there as well. So it is full HD for video. So yeah, you'll be getting like 1080p video as well, which is absolutely cracking. So it's a good bit of kit all in all. Onward, I'm going to show you guys the other camera that we haven't used. So this is the Kodak EasyShare MD41. This was just one of the ones that we had kind of lying about the office, and yeah, it's not like the most sophisticated bit of kit, but if you are really at like quite a basic stage, you feel, and you're just like kind of looking for something more to kind of get to grips with, there is this that we have. Once again, this is more for people who don't really have anything of their own. They're not comfortable with our other cameras, or they can't use it, and they don't have their own camera, or they don't have their own smartphone. But going back to what we were talking about last time, guys, I would bet, what would I bet? I would bet the house that I rent, that I don't own, that your smartphone that you have would be better than this. I'd be willing to bet that. But once again, if you don't have a smartphone, and if you don't have a camera, then and the other camera feels too advanced for you, it's quite easy to use once you get used to it. Especially if you're at that point, you can have it on full auto settings. Nothing wrong with that at all. You'll still get a good picture with that. So if you feel like you're not comfortable with all of the different features on it, just put it on full auto. It's fine. And I'm obviously going to be there as well to kind of help you if you have any issues as well. Right, so we'll run through some of the features on this. I'm not like going to absolutely like slate this camera to bits, because it is okay, but it's just an option there for you guys. Your smartphone can only play Snake. Bet my camera. Oh goodness. Yeah, can't be doing that. I think the camera's probably worth more than my house. Will I be doing any courses on video recording? Yes, we will. Definitely. Like that is 100%, guys. That's 1,000,000%. So yeah, we're gonna do. We will we'll definitely do that after this. That's probably going to be, because obviously these are like the lottery courses, and as I've mentioned before, we have a bit more freedom with the lottery courses in terms of the content that we want to make, which is great. You know, we you know, excuse me, guys. So probably, well, actually, I would say almost definitely. You never know, but almost definitely. I mean, I kind of mentioned it to Dan before, and I think it is on the radar for something that we will do. So we will probably do a video production class. It will probably encompass all elements of video production. It'll just be like it'll be an introduction to video production probably. So we're gonna learn about pre-production, what pre-production you would do for a video, for a film even. We will learn how you would write a script, how you would start with the idea, where to go from there. Then we would maybe look even at factual, like some of the stuff that I do, like how you would work with a client, what kind of stuff you would do, like all of the, we can look at the theory aspect as well, but then we can also do some practical stuff as well. So maybe we're using the cameras that I just pointed out because they've got full HD capabilities, which is great. So you know, maybe we'll do some shooting as well. I'll get you guys to go and make a short film. Like there's already ideas in my head. I think that would be a really good session. This is all off the top right now, so it's obviously subject to change, but like in my mind, I think it would be really cool if we paired people off in like groups of 3 or something, and we were like, right guys, you've got like the full day or however long, go and make like a mini short film, and I'll show you some examples, and we could we'll obviously learn how to make one. I'm not just going to send you away and be like, oh, go make a film. We'll learn how to make one. We'll practice in the classroom if it's at that time by then, or outside if we have to. But we'll see when it starts. And right, we can like practice how to do it. Once you guys feel confident on the cameras, I'll set you guys away, and you can do like a little short mini short film. Maybe it's like 1 minute or 2 minutes long, and you just bring it back to me. Obviously not expecting miracles in your first time making something, but that might be good fun, and then we can edit it together, and then we can watch it in class, and I think that would be so fun. So just as an example, right? Like it could just be something like so we did something like that like years ago, like in my first years at college. What we did was we got assigned that, like, go out and shoot something. It could be anything. It could even just be like some in nature, or you could make something with a mini story. What we did, right, when we had that task, is we just got like a 50 pence, and it was how that 50 pence changed hands. So say we had a group of 4 people, and we asked a couple of our mates as well. We did this in just like a day. So someone pretends to be in the shops, gives the 50 pence to someone drops the 50 pence, another person picks it up, and we were just like filming each person get the 50 pence, and it's just a short little idea. And what it was it starts in a vending machine and it ends in a vending machine, so it's like you have that kind of circle as well, which we'll learn all about that. Anyway guys, I feel like I'm going on a massive tangent here, so apologies for that, but yes, we'll definitely get into that then. And cracking, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you guys are interested in that, and obviously that's my bread and butter. Like obviously I've done photography for years, but like videography is like legit my like bread and butter. So you are 100% in safe hands with that, and I think fairly confident I could answer most questions, and I should be able to offer a good bit of guidance on that. But similar with photography goes in hand with videography as well. I'm pretty confident. I am very confident with photography as well. So you're in safe hands, obviously, as you know, guys. I like taking pictures inside. What's the best advice for lighting? Flash best or not? So I would say use the natural lighting as much as you can, Linda, right? So for example, on my left hand side, I'm just gonna let you guys see my ugly face for a second. Don't know if you guys can see, but if you look there, right, look behind me where that you can see that shard of light. That's coming from my window, which is on my left hand side. Okay, so what I would do in order to get a good picture using only natural lighting is I would position myself closer to the window on the side here, so it's going to light half of my face, or I would face myself facing the window. So if I'm facing the window, so say for example Linda, if I'm turned this way and you're stood in front of me, then that is perfect, because then the camera's facing me and you're using that light as a key light, as a front light, to light up my face, to light up your subject. So the short answer to that is use the natural light when you can, and windows. Always think about windows. You don't want to shoot against a window generally, because the inside is going to be very dark and the outside is going to be very light. So the camera can't decide whether to expose you or expose the background. So that's why a lot of times it's so weird, because it's like inverted. So that's why a lot of times, right, when you shoot someone against a window, the background is either really bright because it's overexposed, because you've exposed the person in front, or it's really dark because the person, because you've exposed outside and then the person's underexposed inside. So use windows to your advantage, but never shoot against them unless you can unless the light in both the rooms is very similar. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And yeah, using flash indoors, it's not like there's nothing wrong with that, but I would use it in low lighting situations. So if you don't have very much light in your room, right, so for example, okay, I'll give you an example of when it might be a good idea to use flash inside. And if it's nighttime, it's like quite late, and your house light that you are going to light somebody with is like quite orange and it's down lighting, so it makes all the person's features look like really like quite heavy, and it's like a horrible down lighting is not a very attractive look. So in that case, I would maybe turn off the house light. Obviously, it's not going to be. Hopefully, it's not going to be pitch black. But I would turn off the light in that case, and then I would use the flash as like your main light source. Maybe with like a lamp in the background or something. And I think that's a good chance. That would be a good opportunity to use flash. And then I'm trying to like resize this video now. I made it so big. There we go. Oh my god, that's the most tiny person ever. Okay, cool. Right, so I hope that answered your question, Linda. So what if it was like is it cold, Daniel? I don't know. Do you know what it is, Amelia? It's like, I feel like my house is always colder. It's like always colder inside than it is outside for some reason. I don't know why. So that's that. Yeah. So if it was the church, for example, once again, look at the lights. Look at the light around you. The only real reason I would say to use flash is make sure it's not interfering with any of the light sources. If it's quite a dim lit room in general in the church, it might be okay to use flash, but you don't want to get that glare sometimes that you get with the inbuilt camera flash. Sometimes that'll cast a glare on some of the objects. You want to try and avoid that if possible as well. So if you take a picture of a church pew and you're actually too close, the flash will reflect off it and it'll leave like a glare on it. Try and avoid those things, but yeah, it is fine if it's like quite low lighting to use that flash on your camera. But best case scenario, use the natural light to your advantage, I would say. Oh, that answered your question there. We'll have a look at the specs on this camera and then we're going to move on, guys. Give me 2 seconds, sorry. Hope that wasn't like a horrible sound on the mic, because for some reason like the straw's kind of broken. Okay, so yes, this camera is 12 megapixel resolution, and it is 3 times optical zoom. By the way, I just want to say, guys, apologies in advance if it's loud right now, just because we have like, if you could hear like banging in the background, it's because we currently have a roofer who's like working on our roof as we speak. So yeah, if you do hear some banging, that's what it is. Okay, so 12 megapixel resolution, which is good. That's like directly related to the resolution, the quality. However, you will get much better than that now, even on smartphones. Like I was saying before, if you check your smartphone, you might have better, higher megapixels than that. It's got 3 times optical zoom, which is the inbuilt zoom. As I was saying, it's not the best in terms of quality, but it still like offers you some zoom. You're able to zoom in on your object, or your subject. Sorry. Smart capture automatically identifies the scene and adjusts the camera settings. So that's like an auto feature. So as I was talking about the kind of auto features, that's one that's built into this camera. The slide before it, this has it as well. This also has that kind of inbuilt feature. It's just on the auto settings, guys. But yeah, because this is like a more primitive model, that was like quite a big selling point for this, I guess. So it has a 2.7-inch LCD screen, so you can't see it, but on the opposite side of the camera, it does have a screen, which is where you can use that instead of the viewfinder, which is a bit more old school now. You can use the LCD screen. Obviously, the camera before also has that, and it captures images to the SD cards. And once again, this was a selling point, I think, for this when it came out, probably because SD cards now, it's like kind of common practice to use that when using a DSLR, but I think that might have been slightly newer technology because it was memory cards before that you would use. So yeah, guys. Okie dokie, right. Let's see. And yeah, no problem at all, Linda. You're most welcome. So yeah, Gary's saying it's crazy to think our cameras have came along. I remember years ago, my Nikon 12 megapixel camera was the top camera, and now 90% of phones come with a 12 megapixel as standard. So yeah, Gary summed it up quite perfectly there. This camera at one point would have been like top dollar. It would have been like the best stuff you could get, and that's what I'm saying as well, guys. So some of you, not all, like more, like I keep saying it as if like you guys are all doing it, but you're not at all. Like a lot of you do have pretty good cameras. Like everyone that I've seen cameras generally quite pretty good, but just in general though, like if you've got like a really old like digital camera like this one, like just as Gary's saying, at the time it might have been good, but now, like as I was saying, check out your specs versus your smartphone, and your smartphone generally might be better than it if it's like an old digital camera like this. Like as I was saying, I guarantee that most of your smartphones are better than this one. They're better than this camera. So yeah, just something to look at there. And Lynn was just saying that she likes a good viewfinder. Yeah, I mean, I use a GH4 for work, and it's got a viewfinder. I use it now and then, and yeah, it is cool. I do like a bit of viewfinder myself as well. But yeah, it just depends, doesn't it? Sometimes it's always like a viewfinder is great, but it's definitely more convenient to use the monitor, I think. Obviously, especially when you're doing video stuff like me, because I do a lot of stuff where I'm like moving and I have to look at the actual monitor, so I couldn't be like, because it would change the actual like angle as well. Okay, onwards, guys, onwards. I feel like I'm kind of going through this a little bit slow, but I think it's okay, guys, because we've got bags of time. But yeah, guys, let me know if you want me to just politely tell me if you want me to shut up and just get on with it, because I feel like we are going a little bit slowly through this one, but it's okay because it's all good, guys. And wow, Charlotte's saying that she had a 2 megapixel camera when she got her first digital camera, and yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I know, I can remember that. And yeah, exactly. And Lynn's saying going back to the days of film where you couldn't edit and you needed to be careful about what was in the images you were paying for every print. That's exactly right. And I mean, I know we were talking about film cameras, right? And it's one of the the really cruel things about that, because my mate, I think I mentioned when we were out shooting, he does a lot of street photography, and like, the fate is in your hands sometimes, because he'll get a really good picture, right? Because he loves like really interesting people with like loads of tattoos and stuff. So if he sees someone like that on the street, he'll just like politely go over and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm a street photographer. Is it okay if I get a picture of you?" And like he'll ask about their story, and he'll spend a bit of time with them and then get a picture. And then, but sometimes, just because it's film, like it might not be in focus, and it's like literally this moment, it's just kind of maybe gone, because like you can't. There's no playback. You can't go back and look to see if it was in focus or not. You have to wait until you get it printed, and then you're like, oh no. And then there's times where I've heard this from a bunch of my friends who do film photography, that they'll be taking pictures and the roll's just like not working, or like it just didn't click or something, and then like there's actually the picture that they thought they took is just not there, like it just didn't take the picture. So there's certain things with film which it's like it can be a pain. Okay guys, so yeah, kind of going off the smartphone stuff that we were talking about, guys. Smartphone cameras, they can be pretty good. And I picked two like expensive ones here, mind you. There are cheaper ones than this. These were just two kind of top of the range ones that I got. It's just so crazy to me that this is the standard for smartphone cameras now. But yeah, guys, so these three lines here, they are different lenses, right? That's what they are. So that's absolutely crazy. And if you look on this here, the same here, these are three different lenses. So it's quite fortunate today that we are talking about lenses, because that is what we've got right here. We've got three different lenses on each camera. So this is the standard now for most smartphones. It's that they would have three different lenses on the back, and it really has took up the photography to the next level. As I was just telling you guys, you know, you might get optical zoom and it's going to digitally zoom it. That's going to diminish the quality no matter what. Doesn't matter how much it tells you it won't, it will. And it's not going to change your angle. Lenses give you different angles. It's going to keep the same angle but just zoom it in, which will change the angle but in a synthetic way, not like in actual, like in a physical sense. So I'll just read through the specs here, and it's saying here that the iPhone 11 Pro, I think this is the one that Dan, the big boss Dan, I think that he has this one, and it packs three distinct 12 megapixel cameras. So right, if you looking at this guy here, little Mr. Kodak Easy Share, see, this is a good point and click. You know, literally you can just hold that up and take a picture, and it is good for that. But that's one lens, right? And then there's three lenses on that, and they're all 12 megapixels, right? You know what I'm saying, on the phone. So yeah, it's saying that this is the first time in an Apple device that it includes an ultra wide angle lens, guys. So 13 millimeters ultra wide angle. We're going to be talking more about that in a bit, but ultra wide is usually, it's not always, but it's usually like, can be fisheye. So when you get something that's about 10, usually they'll make it into like a fisheye. Doesn't always have to be though. It can still just be a ultra wide lens. But you see, you know, when you get a fisheye and it starts to like warp the image, that's because it's like so wide that the surroundings start to warp. And yeah, so we've got an ultra wide angle lens on that, and I definitely, that about these smartphones, I personally love those kind of shots. I love that like bit of distortion that you get from those kind of things, and I'm a big fan of that actually. So yeah, so Charlotte's saying, yeah, I know, but when you get pictures on a film camera, really good, and special, sometimes the blurry technique can add quite a nice effect. Yeah, definitely. One of my what was I saying? Sorry, one of my favorite photographers, he takes some pictures like that, and then they are, you know, blurry sometimes, and it has a really nice kind of feel, adds a bit of texture to it. So Ali is saying, what millimeter usually is fisheye? It can vary, but I would say 10 millimeters, and you'd even get 13 millimeter fisheyes as well. So around that millimeter range, I would say 14, 13, 10, and maybe slightly below that, but I wouldn't imagine it would go much further below that. But yeah, fisheye lenses, they're more of a specialist lens. Wide angle lenses are absolutely fantastic, but a fisheye lens is a very particular effect. So just, you know, be aware of that. If you are going for a fisheye lens, that it's always going to give you that effect. Whereas a normal wide angle lens is just going to give you a very wide shot, and depending on how condensed your space is, that's how much kind of perspective warp you're going to get in your shot. So if you were shooting outside on an ultra wide lens, you're not going to get any kind of distortion because it's got enough space to capture the field of view. Whereas if you're inside in a small room, you are going to get some warp because it's just condensing the space. So I hope that was a decent explanation. We are going to look at those a bit later on, guys. So we've got a whole bit on lenses, so don't worry if that didn't sink in just yet. Yeah, no worries, bud. All right, so Gary is saying that Motorola Moto G8 Power has a 16 megabyte camera and a quad setup and is on the cheaper side. So Gary, thank you so much for putting that in there. Definitely check that out, guys, because yeah, that's the thing, right? These two examples that I picked here, they are quite expensive, both of them, and I think you're paying for the phone there. But I would definitely. So yeah, Charlotte as well. Thank you for your suggestion. That's absolutely brilliant. And yeah, so 16 megabyte camera, 16 megapixel camera. I'm guessing, sorry. That's brilliant. And you know, a quad setup. So that means it's got 4 different lenses on it, which is absolutely fantastic. So check out Gary's suggestion there. Andy's saying that he had a photo developed of his nana's house on an old camera. Faced a couple of the house, strange thing. No, wow. So yeah, that's crazy. So there you go. That's a bit spooky, that actually. I did. But and yeah, I agree with what Lynn's saying as well. And then Charlotte, you had a great suggestion. She's saying that smartphone cameras are crazy now. Have you seen the new Samsung S20 Ultra? It has a 108 megapixel main sensor camera, so that is going to be an absolute bad boy, that, guys. So yeah, there's obviously always a bit of a tech war between the phone companies who can knock out the best camera, which is good for, you know, people who are photographers and so on, because you've got a great bit of kit on you. Like, even if you've got a brilliant camera, right, you're never gonna have your camera on you all of the time, and there might be a time when like a rainbow comes out, there's just a perfect photo opportunity for some reason, and if you're always gonna have your phone on you, so you can just pull it out, there you go, capture the moment. And yeah, so that's it. But anyway, guys, moving on. Yeah, so it's saying that it's a 2.4 f-stop. We've talked a little bit about aperture, right, if you remember. So that's got like quite a low aperture. Your standard lens, which is 26mm, usually your standard lens would be slightly more magnified than that, but that's fine. And that's 1.8 f-stop, so the aperture on that can get really wide, which is pretty good. That's nice, because if you want to get shallow depth of field, you could definitely get that on the standard lens. A 2x telephoto lens. Telephoto is just like a zoom lens. So, and yeah, with a maximum aperture of 2 of f-stop 2 there. So yeah, if any of that sounds like gobbledygook, don't worry, because we've got a lenses part that we're going to move on to very shortly, and we're going to break down the different lenses as well, so you'll have a better understanding of what they all mean. Then the Huawei P30 Leica, or Leica, I'm not sure how to say that, guys, quad camera, has 40 megapixels, which is absolutely insane, on the wide angle lens, and it has 1.6 f-stop, which is also incredible. Like, that's going to be able to get like really good shallow depth of field, and you're getting that aperture really wide, so that's so cool. And that says that OIS, that means, I'm guessing, I'm about 80% certain that is optical image stabilization. So you know how we talked about image stabilization earlier, about how, you know, if you're moving, it's not going to give you that shake, it's not going to blur the image. That is image stabilization, I'm willing to bet. And then you've got an ultra wide angle lens as well, which is 20 megapixels. It doesn't tell you the lens specification there, so I'm not quite sure, but it's 2.2 f. And then you've got a telephoto lens as well, which is 3.4 f. So you've got the 3 main lenses, so zoom lens, standard lens, ultra wide. That is generally the ones that these kind of cameras, all of these cameras which are quad and 3 triple, they all go for this kind of setup where it's like zoom lens, telephoto lens, standard lens. Alright, so yeah, it's saying that it supports autofocus, which is pretty cool. Most phones generally do, obviously. And contrast focus, I'm not 100% sure what that is, and they've got their own AI image stabilization, which I can't attest that, but that's sounds pretty cool. Okie dokie, so if we slightly move on, we've got smartphone tripods. Now, if you guys watched the second session, you saw that me and Haytham were using one of these. We pulled one of these out, So yeah, more megapixels than your Mark IV. So yeah, there you go, right? It's pretty crazy when you see some of the capabilities that they've got now. But yeah, the Mark IV is good, and the Mark IV will still be better than that for a lot of other reasons. So although maybe, as I'm saying, that it may be better in megapixels, that the Mark IV is obviously better for a number of different reasons. One of them being the fact that you can use interchangeable lenses. You can just put what lens you want on. So yeah, so Amelia's saying that the Samsung Galaxy A3 on the rear packs a 30 megapixel camera with an aperture and a second of f2, so that's pretty cool. It's got an 8 megapixel camera for selfies on the front. So there you go. So Samsung Galaxy A20 has some decent cameras on it as well. And yeah, we didn't even talk about the front camera. So the front camera is that's also important, especially if you were like, you're doing whatever, if you're getting a selfie or whatever. So yeah, front cameras as well, you can check out the specs on those. Obviously mainly for photography we're looking more at the rear cameras, but yeah, so yeah, £1,000, obviously that is a lot of money. And check out, as Gary was saying, the Motorola Moto G8 Power, because that's a quad setup, so that's 4 different lenses, and he was saying that that's a bit more affordable. Yeah, I know that those cameras that the smartphone cameras that we just shown, they're actually quite expensive. It was just for the sake of the example. But yeah, guys, have a little look. Okie dokie. So as I was saying, guys, the smartphone tripod. If you guys watched the session with me and Haytham, we got one of these out, and obviously it's a good bit of kit. It's like you can pick up these on Amazon for around £10 to £20. So if you're thinking about getting one, it's not a bad investment. The way that it works is it can fit to any smartphone basically, because it's like a vice basically. It's spring loaded, so you fit your smartphone in it and it just clips to it, and it wedges it in like quite nicely. So I'd probably have a phone case just to protect it, but it's pretty well lodged in when it's lodged in. And then as you can see, this one here, you can, on the right hand side, you can use it as a selfie stick if you wanted to. So if you wanted to get a shot on the front camera, you could do that, but then you could also turn it around and just use it as like a full-on tripod, and get a shot of whatever you want. So yeah, good bit of kit, and you can see obviously there's a bit of extension there as well. So if you are sticking with smartphone photography, a smartphone tripod is maybe worth your money. It just gives you, mainly, we'll go into it on the next slide, but tripods just give you the opportunity to be able to kind of photograph stuff that you just otherwise may not be able to, like if you wanted to get, and it gives you just image stabilization beyond what you would have been able to get anyway, or even with like an assisted inbuilt image stabilization. So yeah, look out for that, guys. So yeah, no, I got you guys. Okie dokie. So yeah, smartphone tripods, guys, want to look out for. Let's see. So yeah, then we've just got tripods. So if you've got your own camera, tripods are an essential part of photography. They offer great image stabilization and allow you to find angles that you may otherwise not get the chance to. That's kind of what we were just talking about. And tripods can help you take a good image no matter what circumstance, and will support your camera for as long as needed. So yeah, they're nice and durable. They're usually pretty rigid tripods. And yeah, as I was saying, guys, like if you're on like a certain this is like a weird example, but like if you're on like if you're climbing up something rocky, but it's quite right, so say you're on uneven ground, your actual stabilization may not be the best. Like you might end up coming out with pictures that are slightly tilted or slightly like panned or something. If you've got it on a tripod, most tripods have like a spirit level in it, so you can like balance it until it's like literally straight, so it's exactly straight, because you can literally just adjust the spirit level and put it like perfectly right. And no matter how uneven the ground is, it'll just sit on it as long as you've got the free legs down. And also it just gives you the chance to be able to get angles that you wouldn't be able to. So like certain low angle shots where you'd have to crouch down and you're just not going to be able to get the same shot, but you could just flatten your tripod out, put it right down and get like a really good low angle shot. The same with a high angle shot. You could put the camera, like you can put the tripod, like the tripod that I've got, it goes taller than me, so you could put it up above you and then have like a nice high angle shot of something going down. And I mean, like, say you're doing something for like Charlotte, right? So Charlotte, I know that you like to do drawings, okay? So I know that you like to paint. So basically, so Andy, for that, maybe check out the one that Gary recommended. If you just scroll up in the chat a little bit, then have a little look at the one Gary suggested. I'm not sure how expensive that one is, but I think he said it was a bit more affordable option, so it's worth checking out. So yeah, well, that's the thing, Lynn, you know, people say, there's a saying, you know, it's all the gear, no idea, right? You must have heard that before. So as I was saying, like, you know, it's, if we go back to slide 2, guys, make sure you can take a good picture first. All of the kit's good and it can help, but like, you know, it's the most important things to take a good picture. So like, as long as you got the basics down, then you can look at the other options. So I've lost my trail of thought, but it's going to come back to me, don't worry about it. Yes, so Charlotte, right? So say for example, a time that a tripod would be good for Charlotte. So say when Charlotte, when you're painting and you want to get a time lapse of your drawing, you could put the tripod above you on a high angle, lock it off, and then you could just do your whole thing. You know, you could paint the painting or the drawing, or draw the drawing, and then you could do a time lapse after, and tripod would be perfect for that, you know. So yeah, so there's many different reasons why tripods are good, you know. So so my brother has all the gear but definitely no idea. I try to be polite, but it's hard. So yeah, that's why, you know, that's it, isn't it? So yeah, unfortunately that's the case sometimes. Tripods can help you take a good image no matter what circumstance, and will support your camera for as long as needed. Brilliant. Yeah, so okay, lighting, guys, we don't have too much on lighting, but we do have just a tiny bit here. Yeah, so this bit here, because just in case you did want to get your own lights, once again, if I would say for photography, depending on what level you're at, it's maybe worth looking at. But if you're doing like videography, or you wanted to progress onto videography, this is something that I would strongly consider, because it's going to maximize your videography to like the next level. So one of the most affordable options for lights, and if you do ever have any inquiries about kit, guys, just send me an email. You know my email address. I'll put it in the chat in a sec. Okay, I'll work it in the chat now. Yeah, if you've got any questions about kit, guys, don't hesitate to ask me, and I'll try to get back to you with my suggestions. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bring it along, Charlotte. We'll have a look at it. Sorry to hear that, Sue. Hope you're all right now, bud, and I'm glad that you joined the session. It's good to see you. We go on the next photography trip. Bring my tripod. Would you help me? Yeah, we can look at some low-mo photography. Obviously, because we, I'll talk about it in a bit, but we were considering going to Roga, right? So Roga Beach, so we can get some kind of low-mo photography, and we can get like the waves going slow. It's a really cool idea, Charlotte. Definitely, we'll have a little go on that. Okay, guys. So LED lights. So LED lights are good for 3-point lighting, which would be your key light, your backlight, and your fill light. Okay. So I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna give you guys an example again. So guys, if we say this is a film set, okay, and we would have 3 different lights, right? So say this is an interview. You're interviewing me, okay? How are you gonna light me in a room? We turn off all of the lights, all of the external light sources, and we want to light our subject. But how are we gonna light our subject? So what we would do is we usually, in film and photography, you have like a thing called a 3-point lighting setup, and for that you would have maybe 3 LED lights, and you could have the key light, which is your main light. That would be like on like a 30-degree angle. So I'm trying to like, so that about there, but you want it quite far from your subject, and that's going to hit kind of like side of my face here, so it's going to hit me like that. You don't want it to be direct on because the light's going to come out too strong. You want it to kind of look like it's coming from the side because that's more natural. Like look at my face right now, guys. You can see that's what's lit, right? Can you see the way the light's shining on my big nose? It's because the window is there, so that's the light source that we've got. So you would have it about 20 to 30 degrees from your subject, and then kind of quite far away from him. Don't want to gauge the actual distance. Then you would have the backlight. The backlight lights up the background so that it doesn't look like, you know, your subject's just like in like complete darkness. So you would have another light which is kind of just shining onto the background. Once again, you don't want it to be too strong, you just want it to kind of light up the back wall, whatever it is. Then your third light is a fill light. This would generally be much dimmer and much kind of much more subtle. So basically, say your key lights here, I'm trying to do this because it's inverted, so it's like looking in a mirror when I'm looking at the camera here, so it's so confusing for me. So say our key like this, if we were still doing the stream highlights, this is a really good one. So right, say it was, I'm like, this has just gone totally beyond what I was originally intending to do. Say this is the key light, okay, like quite far away from me though. The opposite side would have the fill light. So the key light's lighting that side, it's lighting all my face, but it's primarily lighting that side. And then the fill light would come from the opposite side, but it's going to be much more subtle. You want it to be really dim, just so it's bringing up the exposure a tiny bit. I don't know if that was a good explanation or not, guys. Obviously, given my crazy hand gestures and stuff, but it seemed hopefully that was somewhat helpful for you. I'll get back to explaining the good stuff about LEDs. Let's have a little look. All right, cracking. Cool. So yeah, so LEDs. You can pick up a packet of these 3 different LED lights. Even one would be quite good. You could use one, and I think for one, maybe 30-40 quid. But for 3, you can get like a full pack of 3 for maybe £100, more or less. But yeah, once again, as we kind of progress, and when we're doing the video session, we have LED lights. So it's obviously like, if the COVID stuff wasn't happening, I probably would have had you guys in the classroom using lights already, because we've got like a bunch in the office. So if we didn't have the COVID carry on, we probably would have already been playing with the lights. So it's just unfortunate that the way that's worked out timing wise, but it's all hope's not lost, because like I say, you know, videography and photography are like very similar. So in the video production class, if we've got the opportunity to go in the classroom, we'll use our LEDs, and I can give you guys more of a, you know, a workshop on it. Alright guys, anyway, so you have extendable light stands. So the way to think about a light stand is it's basically like a tripod for your light. That's pretty much simply it. It can be up high, it can be down low, you can change the angle, and that's about that. And it's dimmable. So the reason that LED lights are so good as opposed to some of the other lights you can get, like tungsten lights and so on, is because they are dimmable. So they usually have like a little kind of nozzle on the back, and you can just twist that and it just dims the light slowly. So that is super useful for when you're doing kind of photography stuff, instead of having to, like, if it was a light source that you couldn't control, you'd have to move it away and change the angle, and it can be quite annoying. Whereas with LEDs, you can just literally turn it down, and that's like, it's as handy as it gets. And okie dokie guys, so it's easily detachable as well. I don't know if I just mentioned that, like you can just take it down straight away. So with some lights, there's a bunch of obviously there's cables with this, but there'll be like a bunch of cables, and you'd have to, like, there's so much stuff to like take away, and they're really heavy. A lot of lights are really heavy, but with these, they're just panels, very easy to use. You can just take it down, fit it back in the bag, and yeah, they're quite easy. Alright guys, I'll just move on to the next bit here. Softboxes. Okay, so you've definitely seen these before, right? Even if you're not quite sure what it is, you've probably seen them before. And softboxes So a fill light, would that equal up the light on the face? Yes, exactly right, Sue. Yes, it would. It wouldn't equal it up because you want a bit of contrast, but it will add a bit of light to it. So you're not going to have, if you've only lit on one side, it's going to come out really dramatic. Like it's going to look like dramatic lighting, which is like used in like stage and theatre and stuff. But it's just going to add a bit of light, so it's going to add a bit more definition to the face. So it reminds you of a music stand we used to put up our songbooks on. It looks like that, yeah, that's what it is really. It's quite similar to that, to be honest. And okay, yeah, so softboxes, guys. Softboxes are generally used for portrait photography. You must have seen in like photography studios, they've always, well, more often than not, they've got these. As I was saying, it offers quite like nice diffused lights. These are the bulbs that they use for softboxes. So obviously they're not like dimmable like LEDs, but it's just these two standard bulbs here. And what you do is, the way that you set it up is that this like bigger bag here, it's just diffusion. Like you can buy sheets of diffusion like that separately. So like that little white thing there, you could just buy that like separately, and you could just stick it in front of like a bare light. Well, you be careful with stuff like that though, because you don't obviously like lights and materials. You be careful of like fires and whatnot. But what a lot of people I know have used before, like for like light diffusion, is they've used like curtains. So like shower curtains. You can use like a shower curtain through a light. So literally, if you wanted, if it was really sunny outside and you were trying to shoot someone but it was too sunny, you could use a shower curtain and hold it up where the sun's coming through, and it would actually diffuse the light to give you a better image. I mean, I know that sounds like madness, but it really does, and it really works. There's also something called a bounce board. Who can tell me what a bounce board is? I know you got it, the clue is in the title. I know it's a guess because we haven't talked about it, but who can have a guess what a bounce board is? Someone might know. Someone in the chat might know. I don't even know. Did I even say that? I don't even know. Okie dokie. So bounce board, guys. Who can tell me? Yeah, there we go. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, so yeah, brilliant. All right, guys. So yeah, like a bounce board could be white. Sometimes it's like white. Sometimes it'll just be like, it'll look like what's the word? Like the thing that's in my head's tinfoil, but that's not the thing I'm looking for. It's like the same color as tinfoil. It's like silver, basically. It's like a silver board, and it's just like, it'll be like the same kind of material as a softbox, so you can just pick it up. It's just like a bit of like material. And exactly right, you guys guessed it all right. What you would do is, you would see, if you wanted to get your subject in a certain place but the light wasn't exactly there, what you would do is you would use your bounce board to push to, like, you'd move to where the light is, like where the light's hitting, and then you'd put it on the bounce board and you'd maneuver your bounce board to hit your subject. So literally the light would bounce off the sun, so the light would come from the sun, hit your bounce board, and then it would hit your subject by the way you've tilted it. Absolutely genius. And cheap as well. So really cheap, good little stuff that you can use. So I know that affordability is something that we think about when we're doing these sessions, so there's a couple of good easy hitters there. Obviously we're not fortunate enough to be blessed with hot weather year round, so obviously bearing in mind it's only going to work in certain times, but you can bounce light. It doesn't have to be off the sun. You can bounce light off other light sources that are already in the room. So yeah, bounce board. And diffusion, if you've ever got a light that's coming through too hot, shower curtains literally work. You can use them. So there you go. It's like satin, I think, and I think it is like satin. Yeah. So it's like those foil blankets they give runners. True, exactly right. And if you've ever noticed, when you've seen those foil blankets, the light's like absolutely glaring off them. It's the same thing with like a bounce board. Like you got to be careful when you're using it, because when you're holding it, you can end up like shining it into people's eyes, and it happens all the time, and people be like, ah. So yeah, you need to watch out when you're using them, but yeah, they're good fun actually. Anyway, guys, I've tangent master today. Softboxes have these bulbs, good for taking portraits. They actually are quite reasonably priced. The thing is, they're not as good as LEDs in my personal opinion. Well, they're different, they serve a different purpose, but with LEDs you've got a bit more flexibility. With these it's generally for one thing, but they are good, especially if you're looking to do more portrait photography. Every photographer in his studio, every portrait photographer will have 2 softboxes at least, definitely. So yeah, I've seen these online for like 40 quid. So yeah, it's we've got them as well. So if we revisit, with these classes as well, I was talking to Haytham the other day, and what we were thinking is like, we'll do like a taste it session of like an advanced version of the classes. So I know that today it has been a bit advanced in terms of what the stuff we've been talking about, but we haven't been like interacting with it much. We're just kind of going like introducing it, so to say. But with what me and Haytham were talking about, he was saying that he would maybe in the future do like a taster for like an advanced version of one of the courses he's done, so like an advanced version of After Effects or something, just as a taster to see how it was. And I was thinking about the same thing with maybe photography or videography. So we'll have to see. So yeah, so it's worth looking at, because I would maybe do an advanced photography one, and then we could actually use the softboxes, and we could use some of the lights in that class. Am I in the office on Monday? I'm not sure yet, Sue. I'll have to get back to you on that one. But if you have any kind of queries or anything, you can drop me an email, and I'm sure if I'm not in the office, anybody who is may be able to help you out if you've got a specific thing that you need from the office or doing from the office. So yeah, the advanced ones would be real good. Yeah, that's the thing. So we'll do it as a taster, so it will be like 4 hours maybe, and then obviously we'll maybe roll it out if it does have. We'll roll it out just to see what it's like, obviously. But yeah, it might be something worth looking at, and we can have a full like session on all of the lights and all of the different lenses and stuff, and really get into the nitty gritty of it. Alrighty, guys. Green screen. Okay, so green screens are used all the time in photography and cinema, guys. You can get these like double cheap, like a for like, I don't know, you could probably make one if you really wanted, if you had the green material. All you need is a green flat color, and you need to be able to spread it out thin. So there can't be any creases in it. If there's any creases in it, it'll show up. You want it to be nice and smooth. So when you be careful when you're folding it up, because you don't, if you put creases in it, it's going to show up on your photos. So yeah, green screens are used all the time, guys. So I would guarantee that every film you have seen in the cinema for like the last 10 years, all of them have used a green screen at least once. Almost all of them. So, just some of them. None of them. No, but like a lot of them will have, definitely, because even if it's like background CGI, which is what people use a lot, then green screens are just used all the time in photography as well, always in photography. So basically, I guess that you guys know what a green screen is. It is cracking. Well, I'll tell you what, Sue. Next Thursday, if you can hold your horses, next Thursday we're going out to Roga Beach to do some shooting. Right, Amelia, we're going to do some shooting on next Thursday. We're going to take some pictures, and if you bring it along, then I'll be able to have a look at it then, Sue. So if you just bring it with you next Thursday, and I'll have a look at it. And you could just paint your wall green. You actually could as well, Charlotte. You're right. If you've got like perfectly green walls, that would work. So yeah, and Lynn saying she worked at IDN in the 90s and they use green screen all the time. Exactly, it's like everywhere. Marvel films have a lot of green screens. Yeah, it's unreal. If you ever watch the behind the scenes of any Marvel videos, you'll see just how much green screen that they use. It's like insane. You'll think like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that there was that many. Think Haytham used green screen when I was staying connected with the explosion background. Yeah, exactly. So that was like, yeah, it was like a simulation of a green screen. Like the Zoom is fortunately like quite intuitive in terms of separating you from the background, so it can like it can sense what's the foreground and the background, and it can superimpose something over that without an actual green screen. So that is pretty cool, without a physical green screen, that is. So if you have a look at this, guys, it's just literally a green bit of sheet, and as Charlotte was saying, like, you could paint you all green if you wanted to. Anyway, guys, long story short, basically what they use for is you just put your subject in front of the screen and you can change it to any background that you like. So yeah, it's used for like literally everything. So if you want to do like a themed photo shoot for something, then all you would do is you could just have the subject on the green screen, and then you know you can edit the background how you want. And yeah, the possibilities are endless. Like if you guys have ever watched the weather, if you guys have ever seen the weather, I'm guessing you have, that's done on a green screen. So obviously the guy is sitting in front of a green bit of wall, and he is looking at a monitor in front of him, and on the monitor in front of him there's like all of the different like cities and how hot or how cold it's going to be and so on, and he's like actually pointing on the green screen, kind of doing what I was doing, fumbling around before, saying, oh, it's going to be really hot here, but literally behind him it's just a green screen. So like literally. So there you go, guys. So that is a bit more detail on a green screen. And you guys, it's the only green and blue it works with. So I think mainly it's, well, I think that you can work with, I think actually, Sue, it can work with any color, but green and blue are the most two effective colors because they are the ones which are easiest to separate from the background. So I think you could do it with any color technically, but it would always be best with green and blue. So that is a good question. And yeah, a lot of YouTubers are starting to use green screen now. That's true. And okay, guys, ND filter. Talked about this. You probably heard me talk about this loads. An ND filter, as I always say, guys, they are sunglasses for your lens. Okay. And there's often times when I think, oh, I wish I brought my ND, because, you know, if it's too bright, I'm going to ask a question, guys. If our image, and see who can get this in here. It was strange, just someone pointing at blankness. There you go, exactly right. So, is this afternoon session on Zoom or YouTube? It will be on Zoom, Amelia. So, yes, guys, who can tell me if our image, we're taking a photo right now, okay, and if our image is too bright, what do we do? What camera settings would we need to change in order to correct that? Who can tell me? Who can tell me, guys? There's a couple of different things that we could do. Our image is too bright. It could be any, there's any of the ones. If you're thinking, well, there's a couple of things you could do. Contrast, yes. Exposure, brilliant. Yeah. So how would we alter the exposure though? ISO, Lee, very good. Very good. All good answers, but Lee's answer is what I was kind of thinking in terms of how we would directly change it. Aperture, brilliant, Amelia, exactly. It's the exposure triangle, right? So we've got the three settings that all affect brightness. Change the aperture and shutter speed. Brilliant, Charlotte. Yeah, so you change the exposure triangle. You change your shutter speed slightly. Bear in mind, don't want to, what you would, right, so I'm trying to think the simplest way. It says, ideally, so it's all three settings. It's aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, but you want to when you can, you want to work on base ISO, so you'd like to have your ISO as low as possible. If you need to boost it to 800, that's fine. If you need to boost it to like slightly higher than that, that's okay, but you're going to start to get noise. Aperture is the one it's going to really affect your brightness quite significantly. So if you're wanting a nice wide aperture, if you're wanting to get the like 2 f-stop or 1.8 f-stop, you're wanting to get a nice wide aperture, then you're probably not going to be able to do that if it's quite bright. If there's a lot of light coming in the lens, you're going to need to have a really small aperture, which like a high f-stop, because you're going to need to make that like that aperture get nice and small, just so that you're able to kind of capture the light, because otherwise it's going to be too bright. But there is a way to counteract that, and that is with an ND filter. As I was saying, guys, if you put the ND filter, you just literally screw it slightly, you just screw it gently onto the lens, but be careful, because you know, be careful, guys, because right, it's it can thread onto the lens, so it can thread quite easily on the lens. So if you put it on too tightly, it'll thread onto the lens, and you've got an absolute nightmare on your hands. So be careful with it. But you know, put your ND onto the lens, and then you don't need to change your aperture, so you can still get the same quality shot if you want like a really shallow depth of field, but without having to adjust your aperture. So ND filters are really cool. You only need them when it's bright. You don't need it if you're working in low light. You definitely don't need an ND filter. It's only when it's too bright. That's the only time. As you can see here, there's a little diagram, and that's like, you can get different levels of ND as well. That's like the one with the most opacity, and that's the one with the least. So you can see how that affects the image without changing any of the camera's internal settings. Okay, you can buy NDs for your smartphone, believe it or not. So once again, if you are staying strictly with smartphone photography, you can get ND filters for your smartphone too. So it's worth looking at. I've never used them, so I can't vouch for their quality, but it's you know, it's worth looking at maybe. Okay, so I think that's about that on NDs. Now, guys, we have actually got on to the lenses part. So we are going to have a little look at lenses here. Okay, guys. So, right. Okay. Cracking. Guys, so, different lenses. So, obviously, if you've got a DSLR and you're wanting to start to get different lenses, then excuse me. So then you can have a look at some of the different options available, and yeah, like the standard lens is the one that maybe would give you the most usage. It's going to be quite practical. You're going to be able to use it for pretty much everything. Well, mid-range stuff generally, okay? So a standard lens is generally a mid-range lens, and that would generally be around 50 millimeters. Now, it could be 30 to 50 millimeters. It could be a 30 millimeter lens. A 30 millimeter lens would still kind of be a standard lens. 30 to 50, you might get that. But standard lenses generally have a fixed aperture and focal length. So that means there's going to be no zoom as well. It's just going to be fixed lens, okay? You're not going to be able to kind of zoom from 30 to 50. It's just going to stay at 50. So that would be your focal length. And the field of view is roughly the same as the human eye. So guys, yeah, 50 millimeters is roughly what they say is the same as our eye. So you see your field of view with your eyes right now, okay? If you're looking around, that is roughly 50 millimeters. That's what they say. And then also, if you want to really take it next level, if you want to really take it next level, guys, I am looking at the laptop right now. Everything around me is blurred, kind of, because my eyes are focused on what's in front of me. That's so much like a camera, right? If I look around and I pay attention to my surroundings, it all becomes in focus. But when you're focused on something, your surroundings get kind of blurry. So it's much like an actual camera. I don't know, maybe I'm reaching on that one, guys. I don't know. But yeah, so what kind of ND filter would I recommend for beginner photography. Firstly, Charlotte, make sure it matches your lens. So whatever your lens is, like width ways, make sure that matches it, because you don't want to get an ND filter that's going to be too big for your lens or too small for your lens. So just make sure it matches the same size of your lens. That's the most important thing. And you can literally pick up a pack of 3 different ones, Charlotte, probably for about 10 to 20 pound, I would say. And for just one ND filter, just a couple pound, I would imagine. And I would go for a lower one first. I would always go lower rather than higher, especially because it's coming to winter soon. So you know, we're getting to the end of summer, so I would say, just in terms of for practicality, I would get like a lower ND. I wouldn't get one that's too opaque. Okay guys, so that's a standard lens. Your macro lens. Okay, so this, once again guys, I told you about my story about the zoom lens, right? I wouldn't, if you're starting off, this should never be your first lens that you buy. Just because it's so specialist. Like, it's really, really good, but I wouldn't get this like as your first lens, just simply because it's so specialist and you can only use it for one thing, really. That being said, it is really nice, and for someone like Charlotte, who does a lot of kind of abstract photos or things really up close, it's definitely worth investing in the future to get a specific macro lens, because you know it's got like a special type of lens in it, which can allow you to take like super detailed shots of stuff like really close up, and you're able to capture like the patterns in everyday things, but like extremely close, and get some really kind of nice abstract shots, like some of the cool stuff that Charlotte gets. And so yeah, you can take detailed shots of abstract photos or objects up close. It's generally a specialist lens for close-ups, and they are also often used for pictures of insects, animals, and plants. So yeah, sometimes you get people like, you sometimes see like a close-up of an insect, and you're like, how the hell did they get that? Like a butterfly, but it's so close. Probably used a macro lens. But that's that as well, guys. So yeah, it is a good bit of kit, but it's definitely not a starter lens. That's all I'm saying. Okie dokie. So, telephoto lens. Alright guys, looks like a telescope, and the clue's kind of in the title. Telephoto could also just be a zoom lens. There might be some slight differences between the two, but I think that more or less that they're relatively the same, guys. So yeah, a telephoto or a zoom lens. It has a long focal length and a high level of magnification. So this will be your zoom lens. Like a typical zoom lens would be something like 75 to 200, but you can literally get something that would be like 100 to like 300 or something like that. I can't see exactly what the specs are on this. It's hard to say because it's on the top there. But I would imagine that this can zoom in like quite far, maybe to like 300 and beyond, probably even further than that, to be honest. But yeah, so telephoto, you can zoom a lot, like a long way. So these are, as we were saying as well, then they do definitely have the place. They're absolutely essential in some cases. If you're a sports journalist, this is like your bread and butter. Okay, you need one. If you've ever been to a Newcastle, well, I don't know why it's specifically Newcastle, but that's because I guess that's the team I support. But if you've ever been to like a football game, you'll notice that you see all of the people sat on the sidelines have these big cameras with like huge lenses. They're usually telephotos, so they can get the players' expressions, they can get the close-ups of the players, and still get those nice shots where it looks like they're on the field. And it's because they've got such good magnification on these lenses. So yeah, it's like the sports journalist's best friend, I think, because that's what they usually use for, like shooting sports or wildlife as well. Once again, wildlife, if you're taking pictures of like a tiger, you're not exactly going to be like going up to him and being like, oh, just get a quick picture, mate. Like, it's just not going to happen. So you need a telephoto for that case. You would have to be like way back, like in a ghillie suit or something, and yeah, that's how you would do it. So That's the thing. For macro and telephoto were the same thing. No, they are not the same thing, Sue, because a macro is usually for close-up details of stuff, where a telephoto is usually a zoom, which is used for getting something from quite far away. So they're quite different, really, because a zoom lens wouldn't necessarily be able to capture the details of something totally up close. Macro is you may get a telephoto lens which is a macro lens as well. I know that's getting quite confusing, but generally they're two separate things. And a macro is a more specialist lens. Like the way that they build a macro lens is different than most normal lenses because of the way that they have the magnification. So yeah, they're actually a little bit different. They're quite different actually. No worries, good stuff, Sue. But yes, okie dokie. Because you could see on this lens, right, like on the macro lens, it usually is quite like zoomed in, like that's a 100mm lens, right? But it's still it's quite a bit different, like the zoom. Also, a lot of zoom lenses don't have a fixed focal length, so you could go from like 100 to 300 or so on, whereas with a macro lens it would usually be fixed, so it would just be 100 or so on. Alrighty, wide angle lens. This is one of my favorites. I like to do a lot of wide angle stuff, as I mentioned before. Quite like macro on flowers and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely right. Macros are great for flowers. Yeah, you'd be able to capture like a bee, you know, pollinating a flower or something. Like that's brilliant for a macro lens. That would be a perfect shot. So yeah, a wide angle lens, guys, is generally, so it says here that they're generally 35mm or less. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I wouldn't call, I wrote that, but I don't really agree with that. I would say that, you know, I would definitely wouldn't say 35. I would say maybe 30. I still wouldn't even say that because it's not really that wide. I mean, okay, yeah, I guess. So maybe like a 30mm would be a bit wide. But yeah, when you're really getting like quite wide, it would be like 10 to 20. You can see this Sigma lens we've got here is a 10 to 20mm lens, and they usually have a short focal length, obviously. Wide angle lenses are great for landscape photography because you can get a huge field of view. The field of view, or the fro as you call it, is like so wide, like you can see a lot of the space. And an extreme wide angle lens, as we spoke about before, is called a fisheye lens, and that's usually when it's really wide. And also, once again, slightly different to a fisheye lens and a wide angle lens are a little bit different, because when you see a fisheye lens, right, you see this bit here, this like lip. I don't know, I'm going to make sure that I'm actually, can you see that okay? You see that lip there, like it's flat. On a fisheye lens, it would loop over slightly. So on a fisheye lens, it pops up like that, and that's how you get that like kind of barreling effect, because it's kind of rounded. You can see the lens is like slightly rounded. But yeah, in a wide angle lens like this, you see it doesn't have that, so that's not a fisheye lens. Okay. And yeah, fisheye lens is good, but once again, it's a piece of experimental kit, and you would only really use it for one purpose, so it's probably not worth getting unless you've already got like quite a big kit, like quite a large kit anyway. But yeah, I love wide angle lenses in general. We've got a wide angle lens in the office, which I really love. So yeah, exactly. So you see those big kind of school photos where it's like everybody all in one. That would have to be a super wide lens. So that's a really good point. Lynn. And yeah, Charlotte was saying she's been looking at macro lenses lately, and she's going to buy one in the future. Yeah, so it would be perfect for you, Charlotte. But obviously, as you were saying, it's worth, you know, getting something that you're going to get more use out of, like a, you know, like a standard lens first, and then move on to that afterwards, I would say. But it's definitely down the line something to get. And yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, in the office we've got a wide angle lens, and it's like it's 20mm fixed 20mm 20mm wide angle lens, and it's great. It's a Lumix lens, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's like my favorite lens, and it's a 1.8 f-stop, and I've been using it like a lot lately on all of the stuff I've been shooting, and I really love it. It's you know, I can get like a lot of it. I can get a lot if in the field of view, but I'm also able to get quite good like shallow depth of field even if I've got something in the foreground. It's a really nice lens, and it's like that big. It's like so small, because usually like when you first start learning about photography, you think the bigger the lens the better the quality. It's not necessarily true. Like that lens I've got, that wide angle lens, one of my favorite lenses, and it's like tiny. So it just depends, guys. Okay. Kit lenses. If you were getting started with your camera, you may buy a bundle with a kit lens. So you probably get a kit lens, which will be like a bundle with your camera. So say if you buy like a Canon 600D on Amazon, I don't know if it's still there, but there used to be a deal on Amazon. It was, if you got a Canon 600D, you could get a kit lens with it, which would be 18 to 35 millimeter. You see these deals with a lot of DSLRs you buy. Those lenses are a great starter tool, because you're able to get some nice wide shots and like a wide range of different shots, but they're not going to be the best quality overall. So it's definitely good to kind of learn the basics on those, but once you get the grips with it, then it'll be good to kind of move on and explore some of the other lens choices out there. So yeah, so wide angle lenses are great for just focusing on everything. So once again, it depends on your perspective, right? So like if everything is on the same like line, so say right, how am I going to explain this? So if I'm getting a field, right, and the whole field's just like there, then I would be able to capture everything in the field, right? But say if I have like a cup in the front of the image, and then the background is the field, what's going to be in focus is the cup. I'm going to focus on the cup, right? I could choose to focus on the background if I wanted. So it would have the whole scene in it, but it would just be kind of a little bit blurrier. And the cup would be what was in focus. However, no matter what, a wide angle lens is never going to give you the same shallow depth of field that a standard lens would, or a zoom lens. They're always going to give you more of a shallow depth of field. A wide angle lens, you can still achieve it, but it's going to be less. So I hope that cleared that up a bit. If you're getting started with your camera, you may buy it, but I've literally just read this, I'm so sorry. So yeah, definitely kit lenses, nothing against them at all, they're great. But if you're thinking like, oh, I don't know why my photography's not looking outstanding, if you're using a kit lens, it may be limiting you somewhat once you feel fully comfortable with that lens in that camera. And you'll never guess what time it is, guys. It is it is quiz time. We've got 15 minutes. I reckon we've got enough time just to crack out the quiz. So if we just get cracking with the knacking, maybe we'll just start the second session like 5 minutes later if we run over or something. That's all right. Okay, so there we go. Yippee, that's the one. So all right, guys, who can tell me, and obviously we'll do this together because I feel like that was the consensus that everyone wanted to do it together, so that's absolutely fine by me. Who can tell me, number one, guys, what would you look for when trying to get the best smartphone camera? What would you look for when trying to get the best smartphone camera? Yes. Megapixels. Good. Yep. Fine with that. I accept that answer. I'll tell you what else. Anyone got any idea what else? Yes. Brilliant, Lynn. That was the one that I had in mind. Megapixels is a great answer. Totally good answer. But the answer that I had in mind was how many lenses it has. So that's a very good answer because, right, try and get the most obviously affordable one you can, but I would say try and get the most affordable one you can that has 2 or 3 lenses. Like I think even some of the older model smartphones now have 2 lenses on the back, right? Yeah, good job, Amelia, perfect. So yeah, check out if it has 3 lenses, if it has 4 lenses on the back. Once again, not essential, but good. Effects that they have, yeah, so obviously we talk about shallow depth of field quite a bit. You have that effect in Android and iPhones as well now, so that's something that you guys can have a little look at. and it's also something that's implemented, which is quite useful too. So definitely check that out. Good point. So guys, who can tell me what is a softbox? What's a softbox, guys? Yes, brilliant. To light subject in a more softer tone. Yeah, and so that's what the purpose of, and it's a diffused light box. Brilliant. Both answers I will definitely take. It's used to light the light the subject in a more softer tone, and it is a diffused light box. Light mainly used to diffuse. Yeah, absolutely. A softbox in the literal sense is just a bulb inside of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, a contraption, which it just helps to diffuse the light on a light stand, and that would just be your soft. Well, literally, it's a light in a box, so, which has like a soft sheet on it. So that's literally what it is. Okay, cracking, good stuff there, guys. What is a green screen used for, guys? What is a green screen used for? To impose subject on any background by superimposing over the green. Brilliant. Change the background used in films. So Lynn, Andy, great. Charlotte, perfect. Brilliant. So everybody, good job there. That's all of those are right. So good job, everybody. Absolutely fantastic there. Perfect. Totally happy with that. Yeah, that's exactly what a green screen is used for. It's to replace the background with something else. Okay, guys. So good job there. I think everybody was passing that with flying colours. Good job, Sue. Absolutely great. Mask out the background and change it. Yeah, that's it. Alright. Putting a different background behind the subject. Yeah, that's right. Change the background, and it's often used in films. So yeah, all right. All those answers were great. Okay, so guys, who can tell me what is an ND filter? So what's an ND filter? So yeah, that's right as well, Amelia. So close, Amelia. That's close. So neutral density filter, basically sunglasses for your camera. Very good, Lee. And Andy says it works like sunglasses for your camera. So you were really close there, Amelia. But just to clarify, it doesn't actually change your aperture. It will change the exposure. I know that that's what you meant, and I know that it's just like words, obviously, but like, because it allows you to keep the same aperture, but it'll change the exposure by diffusing the light a little bit. Exactly. So yeah, Lavender. Sorry, Charlotte says it diffuses the light, but it can keep the same f-stop. So you've got the same effect, maybe, Charlotte, depth of field or whatever you were going for. Exactly right. Good answers there. And changes light conditions if too bright, as Sue said. So yeah, that's another good answer. Brilliant. So what is a macro lens used for, guys? Who can tell me that one? What is a macro lens used for? Close-ups, brilliant, Lane. Yeah, close-up, for example, nature's subjects to show the fine detail. You do this close-up to the subject, not from a distance. Absolutely brilliant there, Lynn. That's a really good answer. And yeah, Andy says for close-up shots, great. And to take photos of close-up of the subjects, as Charlotte says. And then, yeah, Amelia says long focal length and level of magnification. Yeah, so they're all right. I'll take all of those, guys. Oop, just popped up, we had another answer there. And Sue says, yeah, more close-up to give more definition. Yeah, macro lenses are used for close-up photography, like shots of flowers, shots of table. I'm looking at the table. It's not like oh my god, I've got a macro lens now. I need to get a picture of a table. But you could like the pattern in a table. Like that's what my meaning was. Like detail, abstract photos, things like that. And guys, what is a telephoto lens used for, or what is a telephoto lens? I'll accept both answers there. Let's have a little look. Used for far away shots, cracking. Yeah, to take a picture that is very far away from you. Brilliant. Yeah, That is, they are both right. Yeah. Good job, Andy. Good job, Charlotte. Image from a distance. Good for paparazzi. Exactly right. Brilliant. So yeah, good. And zooming in on stuff, as Lee said. So yeah, I'll accept all those answers. That's brilliant. That's the one I answered last. Yeah. So yeah, Amelia. Yeah, long focal length and length of magnification. Yeah, it does. Obviously, yeah, both a telephoto and a macro lens would usually have longer focal length. But yeah, that's right. So yeah, zoomable to enhance distance. That's true. Well, a macro lens and a telephoto lens are a little bit similar, but right. So the main difference is with a macro lens, you can only usually get close-up shots, where with a zoom lens, it's zoomed in, but you don't have to only get close-up shots. You got it? You don't have to. So with a zoom lens, that would be perfect for me to go and shoot the football. Okay, but with a macro lens, that wouldn't work because it would be too zoomed in. With a zoom lens, I wouldn't be able to shoot a flower right up close, or I might be able to, but it wouldn't be as effective as if I used a macro lens. You got it, Amelia? Okie dokie. So guys, what is a wide angle lens used for? So what's a wide angle lens used for, guys? Yes, good. Yeah. So Charlotte says to get everything in the picture. Perfect. Taking in a broader view, all of the landscape, or getting all the people in the lineup of a shot. Good, Lynn. Wide field of view, as Lee says. Perfect. And Andy says to get more of the image in, like school photos. Yeah, all of those you would use a wide angle lens. Allows you to get more into the frame when taking landscape photos. That's right, Amelia. And wider shots, e.g. school classes, or more landscape work. Yeah, Sue, that is right as well. So yeah, you would use a wide angle lens for all of those things. That's absolutely right. Cracking, guys. And let me have a look. What's last question? This one should be an easy one. Clues in the title. What is a tripod, guys? What is a tripod? Who can tell me what is a tripod? Yeah, good job, Len. So put your camera on it for stability, particularly useful in the dark if you don't want to leave the shutter open for too long. Well, actually, that is really good. So good job, Lynn, because I didn't actually mention, and also Charlotte, good job, because you know what it is? When we were talking about it today, I didn't even mention that, but we did in previous sessions, but we didn't talk about that today. So absolutely class job for remembering, because yes, that's so true. If you're going to get a low shutter speed shot, essentially you need a tripod. Brilliant. So yeah, Andy's answer's right. Yeah, so stand to steady camera for fixed shots. Brilliant. Yeah, and to put your camera on, it's a stand with 3 legs. Good answer, Amelia. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's a tripod, guys. Last question. It's the bonus question, which I said I was going to ask you and I've remembered, so I am. What is focus peaking, guys? So what's it? So where the shutter's being left open. Yeah, I tell you what. Do you know John? I don't know if you guys have been to the Tesco sessions. John, who used to come, he's a professional photographer, and it's a shame that he's not in this session. You know, well, I'll have to give him a shout. I'll drop him a message. But if we look at some of his photography one time, he's got some nice low-mo stuff. So yeah, we'll have to see what he's up to. But yeah, yeah, I can imagine that looks lovely, Lynn. Yes, so the bonus question, guys, what is focus peaking? Lee, perfect. Yes, Charlotte, help you tell when your image is in focus. Green dots that appear on focused objects. Both are absolutely great. Good job. So bonus points to Charlotte and Lee as well there. Great job, guys. Oakley doggly. let's have a look. A live preview on a digital camera. Yeah, that's fine as well, Amelia. Yeah. It's a live preview to tell you what's in focus. That's what it is. Okay. So, right, guys. Here's just a little bit of details about next week. So, yeah, guys, we're going to try to get out to Roga Beach and do some shooting. Be careful. Right, so literally, I obviously trust you guys, but a beach is a nightmare place to shoot for like a million different reasons, right? Because one, sand, like a grain of sand. Yeah, no worries then. I'll bring 3 of the. I tell you what, I'll bring 3 of the major ones, like the ones that we looked at the beginning, with focus peaking and that. So everyone can share those, and I'll bring a couple of the Kodak Easy Share ones as well, so if we run out then at least we've got those ones too. It is Andy, so that's right. So yeah, so just to explain, obviously you think about how tiny a grain of sand is, right? If that gets in your camera, it's an absolute nightmare. So it's, you know, we just need to be careful, that's all basically. So yes, sand in lenses is a total nightmare, so be as careful as possible, guys. And also the sea as well. It's like there's all this water, so there's the sea which will break a camera, and then the sand which will also break a camera. So it's a bit of like a death trap in terms of shooting. But yeah, we'll just not shoot, take photos and videos. Exactly, that's right, Amelia. So yeah, guys, just be careful. Basically, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, well, no worries then. Well, I'll bring the cameras, and then just yeah, have a go on it, and just that's it. Yeah, should be fine. You'll be fine to use that. Yeah, and I'm sure if 3 people are using the cameras, you know, we can rotate them, and then we've also got the point and shoots as well for people to use, so that'll be fine. Andy, I don't want shot. All right, guys. So yes, once again, we're gonna try to go to Roga Beach. I'll confirm stuff next Monday. I'll send everyone an email. Yeah, be careful, as it's quite easy for the sand to get in the sensor. Once again, we're relying on the weather. Last week we were fine, fortunately. It was touch and go for a minute, but it didn't rain until literally the end, so we were fine. And Charlotte says, don't worry, I'll bring my own camera. Cracking. Linda says, I won't be there this afternoon, I've got an appointment. See you all next week. Well, thank you for joining, Linda. Appreciate you staying till the end, and thanks for that. Yeah. But yeah, Linda, if you do want to watch it back, Linda, we will be looking at the pictures that you took as well, so it might be worth watching it back just to have a look at as well. I'm not going to be there after this. I can watch it later. Yeah, definitely. So it'll be up on the YouTube as well, Lynn. Like yeah, as I was saying, it'll be up on the YouTube. Just be under Intro to Photography Session 4 Part 2. So there you go. It's not Zoom, it's just YouTube. It's YouTube, and it'll just be on our YouTube. All right, it's the perfect place to get shot instead of shoot. Okay, so if my camera breaks, guys, it's going to be fine, but we just need to cover all our bases. That's all. So yeah, once again, obviously we're relying on the weather more so at the beach, because the beach can be more windy, can be more rainy, or rainier and windier. So we'll see. And then I'll email you guys on Monday morning. Okie dokie, guys. More on that next Monday. I'll send out another email and just let you guys know the crack. We're gonna take a break. I'm gonna go and get some lunch. We're gonna come back YouTube this afternoon, 1 until 3. It might be 1:05, or something like that, but it'll be roughly that time. Wearing a bulletproof vest. Fair enough. Yeah, so I'm just gonna go out and get some lunch, guys. And then we'll regroup at about 1:05. It's on YouTube, Amelia. It's the dig. I know how you've got made that mistake though, because all the National Lottery stuff's all YouTube, and digital skills for beginners, and all that's on Zoom. So that's why, obviously, but it's on YouTube, guys. Just be on here on YouTube. I'll aim for your head. Okay. Right here. So I'm gonna take off, guys. And yeah, we're back at 1. We're going to look at everyone's photos. So we'll look at Andy and Amelia's photos. They took some really great ones. We'll look at Linda's. Obviously, she's not going to be able to see it, but she'll catch back up later and look at it. And then we will see Charlotte's. Got some amazing stuff sent it in. So we've got a lot of good stuff to look at. It should be good fun, guys. And then we're going to have a little, we might recap some of the stuff from the taster session if you didn't get the chance to see that. And we're also going to do a little bit of photo editing. So there's some resources that are in the description, and we'll do just a light bit of photo editing, just a little recap, and just a couple of easy things you can do on Photo P just to make a good photo edit. So okay guys, be back about 1:05, and it'll just be on our YouTube, guys, so not on Zoom. So cracking, if everyone's alright with that, then guys, I'm going to take off for now, but I will see you guys at about 1:05. Alright, cheers guys. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the session. It was good fun, and I'll see you guys in about an hour.